Welcome back. In today's video, we will start creating our text animation. So first, we will look at the modeling stage of the workflow. And just to review, the modeling stage is when you make the forms of the objects in your scene. Let's start, and well, before we start, I recommend watching the whole video through just so you understand what's going to happen, then going back a second time, watching it, and pausing between steps and performing each step as we go. So, to start with, we will select our cube and we are going to delete that. You'll notice it's here in the outliner. If you want to select, you can select things by clicking on the outliner, and you can see it's highlighted up there also. Now we will delete this by pressing either the delete key or the X key. Both will make your cube go away. If you hit X, it gives you a menu to confirm, so that way you double check that you don't accidentally delete something by mistake. One other quick thing, which I will talk about later, if you mess up, you can undo your last few actions by pressing Control and the letter Z together. I don't have that in the notes, but I will have that at the bottom later on. So make sure your cube is deleted. Now we want to add a new object to our scene. There are two ways to do this. First, you can come here to the top left of the 3D viewport and click the Add button, and that will allow you to select an object. Or you can press Shift A, and that menu will open where your mouse is. So, with the Add menu open, we will add a new object. And got ahead of my notes, but there you can see the notes for finding the Add button, or Shift A to open the Add menu. So with the Add menu open, by pressing Shift A, and I will tell you this, I will try to say shortcuts and repeat them quite a bit, and I'm doing that so you hear it over and over, and that will hopefully make it easier to remember. I'm not just saying it over and over to be annoying. I know it might be at the beginning, but as we progress, I won't say those things quite as much. But I've discovered by repeating things, it really helps students pick up on the terminology and the shortcuts. Well, with that aside, let's go back, and we are now going to add a text. So your Add menu is open. We're coming down about 5 choices to text, and you will click that. And now you should see the word text in the center of our screen. And I'm using the middle mouse wheel and the shift and middle mouse wheel to kind of move around so I can see that a little better. You'll notice that our text is laying flat. So it's laying flat on the ground, and we need to rotate that so it's standing up and facing forward here on the Y-axis. To do that, we will make sure the text is selected. We will hit R to rotate, X to rotate on the X-axis 90, and Enter, and that will make our text stand up. If you make a mistake and you rotate it the wrong way, Control Z, as I mentioned, will undo that mistake. Next, we will change or model a different word. A text object can be changed by editing it. As with any document software, we need to type a new word. If you will focus your attention here to the top left of the 3D viewport, we're looking for this drop-down menu that says Object Mode. Instead of moving or scaling or rotating our object, we want to edit or change the shape or form that we have. So if we click this, we have 2 choices. We want to select Edit Mode. Now you'll notice that we have a cursor next to our word now, and if we hit backspace, we can delete those letters and then type in a new word. You're welcome to pick any word you want, your name, a sports team. For this video, I'm just going to type in Blender, all capital letters. You're welcome to type in whatever you would like. Once you have that, and I'll make a note here, I did all capital because it looks a little better when we give the word thickness. but that's just my personal preference. So when you're finished, we are done editing. So we are going to go back up to the top. You should still be in edit mode. Out of habit, I switched back to object mode. So you're in edit mode. Click this drop down menu in the upper left hand corner and switch back to object mode. Now just watch this part. Don't do what I'm demonstrating. If I rotate my word, for example, around the z-axis, my word is spinning around the first letter. We will want our word to spin around the center point, at the very middle of the word. So we need to fix that. Most software like Microsoft Word, Google Docs will allow you to pick if a word is left-centered, right-centered, center from the middle. So we're going to, or not centered, but aligns with the left, right, or middle. So we're going to change that in Blender. Let me first unrotate my word. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to only undo the Z change, but there we go. We're all on the same page now. So most properties related to your objects can be found here in the Properties panel. We talked about this in one of our earlier videos, but you'll use the 3D viewport most of the time, and most of the other things you do will fall into the 3D viewport. Into the Properties panel. So focus here on the bottom right on the Properties panel. So we haven't talked about this in depth yet, and you'll notice there are a lot of little tabs running down the side of this. Each of these tabs control a different property related to your scene or the object that is selected. If you will notice, as I select different things in my scene, some of these change. The first 5 or 6 or so, stay the same, and these last several tabs will change based on the object. So if you ever come to look for a property and there's an icon missing, make sure you have the correct thing set. So quickly, let's have an overview of these objects. The first few, these white ones, deal with the whole scene, rendering some basic settings for everything in your project. The next one, the little red planet icon, that deals with the scene itself. For example, later we'll change the color that our world has from gray to black, so that would happen in that tab. Next is this little orange square, and that deals with the properties of the object we have selected. Things like location and rotation are also located there. A few other options. The blue icons, these next few, deal with simulations, modifiers, which we will talk about a little bit soon. The green icon is called the Object Data Properties tab, and a lot of the properties related to your object can be changed in this tab. And the last one, next to last one I should say, this red circle is the Material tab, and that would be where we change it to a metal or a plastic or make those changes. The very, very last one, this little checkerboard, deals with textures. So, make sure your word is selected. Focus your attention on the Properties panel. We are looking for the green letter A icon, and this is the Object Data Properties tab. So select that. Now we have sections, and those sections can be collapsed or expanded by clicking on the arrows. So I'm going to click on each little arrow so everything is nice and condensed. We want to find the paragraph section. Click on the arrow to open that. Next, we're looking for alignment, then horizontal, and we want to change horizontal to center. Now that moved our word so that instead of this little yellow dot being in front of the letter B, it's now in the middle there near the N, and that will be our center point for the word. This little yellow dot is called the origin point. And Blender treats that as the center of the object. Let's go back to the Properties panel. Let's go back to the Paragraph section. We're going back to alignment. Now we're looking at vertical, and we want to change that to center also. So instead of having the origin point at the bottom of the word, it is now in the center of the word. We can now collapse the paragraph section, and we are going to go up to geometry and open that section. Our text is completely flat. It has no thickness, and we want to give it some thickness. So in the Geometry tab here in the Properties panel, find Extrude, and then change the value to 0.05, and then press Enter, and you'll notice that our word now has some thickness to it. And you're welcome to zoom in and kind of reposition this, but I want you to notice that the edges of our letters are perfectly sharp. We want to round those or bevel them so that they're curved and the light will reflect off of that better. And that will help make it, in my opinion, look more realistic, because in real life there are very few things that have a perfectly sharp 90-degree angle edge. There's always a little bit of a curve to it, and light will hit that differently than if it was perfectly a 90-degree angle. So in the Geometry tab here in the Properties panel, we're still in the same place. We're looking for bevel, then we're looking for depth, and change depth to 0.01 and enter. And now you can see that that's rounded and the light hits that, so you can see that rounded edge. The depth value controls the size of the bevel. So if I were to increase this number to 0.1, it's much too exaggerated. 0.05, you have really rounded letters. You're welcome to play with that number and change it to what you want. I'm going to leave mine at 0.01. We have now finished modeling the form of our word. So you can zoom out, kind of glance at that, make sure that you're happy with it. Now let's focus to the top in the info header, and we're looking for File and Save so that we can save this project. So I'll go ahead and click Save. And we want to go back to our folder or directory that we created earlier. And you'll see here under System that Documents is listed. If you chose to put it here, you should be able to find that easily. If not, you'll have to go to your C drive or desktop, wherever you save that at. Once you've found your directory, we're going to click on that. Mine, I named Blender Projects. And our first unit here on Introduction Activities, I will click on that. Then at the bottom, we can name our project, and I want to name mine Text. If I can type today, Animation. And once you have a name, you're welcome to name it whatever you want. We're going to hit Save Blender File. And now our project is saved there, so when we stop, we can come back and it will be at this point. So in this video, I've introduced a lot of new buttons and panels and concepts, and it's not realistic that you will remember all of this as we kind of keep going on and when you need them again. So the three things that I want you to remember are: to make a change to an object, you have to edit it in edit mode, and that is found here in the upper left of the 3D viewport. Most properties related to your objects are found in the Properties panel here on the bottom right. And third, these tabs in the Property panel can change based on what you have selected. One common thing for beginners, you're looking for a tab related to your text, but you accidentally have the light selected. So you have an Object Data Properties tab, but it's a little light icon instead of the little letter A icon. So if you notice you're not able to find what you want, make sure you have the correct thing selected. Any of the other information we've talked about so far, I'm going to review, I'm going to repeat So don't feel like you have to remember every single thing. Through repetition, a lot of this will get easier. In our next video, we will add lights to our scene and start working towards getting that finished product done. Thanks for watching, and please continue with our next video.